Media, where you are. Getting up close and intimate. Totally not taboo with Tracy. Celebrating sexual positivity both in and outside the bedroom.
Hi, everybody, and welcome again to this week's episode of Totally Not Taboo with your host, Tracy. This week, as every week, we talk about anything that is anything. Okay, let's do that again. Hello, everyone, and welcome again to Totally Not Taboo with Tracy. This is where we talk about everything that is taboo around sex and sexuality. Here at your media, hashtag where you are. Today, I have a wonderful guest in studio. Her name is Dakini Shima. And I'm not going to butcher the word Dakini, do it any kind of injustice. I would like Dakini Shima to introduce herself. Thank you for joining us today.
So wonderful to be here. Thank you.
It's a pleasure. And Dakini Shima is going to tell us all about the work that she does. And we're going to identify what it is about her work that is considered taboo, but we'll get into that as well. So, as I always say, open your minds, sift whatever makes sense for you, leave whatever doesn't make sense for you, and enjoy the show, enjoy the chat, and we look forward to having you on board for this discussion. So, please would you explain to us all the word Dakini, the name Dakini. What does it mean and where does it come from?
I'd love to. Thank you. It's a Tibetan word, and it actually comes from a lineage of awakened women from the Tibetan Buddhist lineage. It's a very beautiful word, and what's interesting about it, before I even go into it, is that I was given it by an enlightened man who isn't part of the Tibetan Buddhist lineage, but he recognized that stream flowing through me. Okay, so there it gets a little tricky sometimes because I love the Buddhist lineage and I honor it so profoundly. And I even practice some of their practices and have joined them in their retreats. And they're astoundingly generous lineage in terms of helping one on the path. But it's not my direct lineage. So it is a challenge. But this word Dakini has come into existence and has asked some women to take it who are not directly part of the Tibetan Buddhist lineage. But that's where it comes from. And the word Dakini, there's different meanings for it. But one of the more direct meaning is sky dancer. It's really lovely.
Beautiful.
And if we break that down, which I really like to do, the sky is referring to your mind. So it's that empty space in the mind when you've gone into the conditionings, the taboos, all the your cultural upbringing, and disseminated it. So you just looked at it and thought, what is really true of it and what isn't, and what is like a constraint on my being and what opens me, and spent years with your guru looking at that, like and going into the physical practice, as we talk about taboo, what is that physical practice you go into to look at those beliefs you have in your mind that can help start to break those taboos and open the mind space. And as those conditions in the past are looked at properly, you start to release them. And the mind becomes more the original mind, which is the sky mind, the empty mind. And so when it moves into that sky mind, and it's no longer informing your body being how to be. It's no longer holding you in a bondage from the past. Your energy starts to move. Your energy starts to dance in the sky of your being. So then sky dancer is coming into being.
That is so beautiful.
Yeah.
And I have such a descriptive image, such a beautiful image in my mind of such an emptiness, such a purity in the mind, and I see this white and blue ethereal dancer in the
Wow.
space.
Sure.
So beautiful.
Yeah.
And I'm looking into your beautiful blue eyes, and there's so much energy there as well.
Yeah.
So that is such a beautiful story about how you got to be called Dakini. And Shima?
The name Shima.
Yes.
That happened way back when I was working with a shaman from the Andes, and we were in the ocean, and he was teaching us how to see the spirit of the water by looking at how the light is reflecting off the water and squishing our eyes and seeing the shimmering, and you catch the spirit. And I was doing this, and then suddenly the sound came to me, and I was like, oh wow, look at the shimmer, shimmer, shimmer. And then Shima came. And it was like, and then it stayed. I only took it as my name about 5 years after. So it was like almost like a spiritual baptism, you could say. And then I started to see Shima is where the light and the water meet. That's the Shima. And that, for me, becomes the quintessential nature of sacred sexuality, where the masculine and the feminine meet, the Shima, which is my lifelong passion, you know. So, but that understanding only comes after years of wearing the name.
Yeah.
And it the name called more of me. So my birth name, if someone calls me by my birth name, I feel it like it comes here and a bit here. And it's like, okay, that's all right. But if you call me Shima, it's like you're calling something more of my being.
Inside.
Yeah. So, and
Fascinating.
I believe everyone has many names. I always love to find out other people's names. It's like a hobby of mine. I wonder what one of your names is, you know. Yeah, so that's something I like to look at.
Crazy. Beautiful. Beautiful. Sometimes I had a guest on my show a while back, and we were also talking about a lot of spiritual concepts and things like that. And I said, this sounds very woohoo. And she said to me, well, the beautiful thing about woohoo is that it's magical. There's something magical about the woohoo. And it's stuck with me because it's so true. It's magic, what you're speaking about. It's so out of the ordinary, and yet it has a mysticism and it's something we can't touch, but yet we can. Does that make sense?
Well, what I love about what you're saying is that it brings in that playfulness and the lightness, because we can get very serious, and it calls in that child of wonder. So it brings the child along into the spiritual path, where oftentimes we grew up in spiritual traditions where the child didn't feel that included. It was a bit much for the child, and it didn't, she didn't really feel so included. And where the woohoo, whatever that might be, for me, it used to be crystals, you know, that invites the child to go on a wonder journey. So it includes more of us. Yeah. Yeah.
So tell me, what else do you do in your work?
Well, essentially what I do in my work, which was my deep tantric groundwork, Tantra brought me into the realm of energy. So for me, oftentimes, not all the time, but oftentimes, this landscape is more energetic for me than physical. You know, like I can feel the physicality of it, but in my moment, right now, I can feel like a wave of energy softly moving through my body. So and I spent many, 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 many years with Tantra, many years. So it's almost like I learned how to speak the language of energy, which is not the same language as English. It's a different language. It's a language of feeling, really. And so when I work with people, I like to work slowly and take my time and really listen deeply inside their being, so that their system can slowly start to trust me. Trust is so important. When that trust happens and they start to open a bit to me, I can enter them a little, with permission always, and move into places they don't know about. We call that the unconscious or the subconscious. They're not aware of it. They're not aware of their monster in the basement, or the part of them that wants to sabotage their life, even though their conscious part just dreams of whatever, some beauty in their love or their work or something, but there's something else that keeps nagging them or sabotaging them. So if they let me in, and like I said, really take my time and slowly, I can show them those places inside of their being, and I can speak to those places. And instead of making those places bad, even if I call it the monster, we know the monster is just a place inside of me or you that is unlived, is not allowed for some reason, wasn't allowed as a child. So it becomes grumpy and it acts out or whatever. So it looks like a monster. But if you really invite that back into your being, it becomes the wonderful child, let's say, the child of wonder, or the sexual being that starts arising when you're a teenager, but the parents go, oh my, that's not acceptable in our culture, you gotta put that away. And then that sexual being can create all kinds of disasters in our life sometimes, because she's not allowed to live. So how do we call her back in? So then it's like there's a sense in me that can talk to that and can see it and can feel it. And with the Dakini lineage behind me, around me, they have a magical way, a sometimes miraculous way of bringing to light things that are not seen before in the person I'm working with.
Right.
So I work in the unseen, you can say.
Okay, so I understand what energy is, working with energy. And I can feel energy in a room that is negative, positive, if it's flowing, if it's stuck, and so on. Especially with my couples, I can feel if, I just can sense energy between the couples.
Yes.
So if you were to break down the work that you do with energy, is it talking? Is it hands-on? Is it Reiki? Is it, how do you get into your clients, into that underworld, that, what did you call it, the basement of their unconscious or subconscious world?
So I always start with conversation.
Right.
Intimate conversation. And conversation I really deeply listen to. I think listening is a very important aspect of my work. Right. And I feel that of anyone doing this work, listening. And listening is not just to the information, it's to what's said between the words.
Right.
And then what's really central to me in my work is feeling. So there's no feelings that I push away. For me, there isn't a negative feeling. There's just feeling. All feeling is Shakti. All feeling is energy. So you can say we start with the thoughts, and then there's feelings. And those feelings can be like emotions. And so the emotions are often first like, oh, I don't like something, I'm emotional, but if you go into that emotion, even if you go into a deep anger and it becomes a deep feeling like a rage, behind that rage is power. If you notice with anger or rage, it normally appears if you want to do something, I go, no, you can't do it. Because now the feeling is there to do something and it's stopped and it becomes an emotion. So let's follow that emotion. Anger becomes the rage. Behind the rage is a power that wanted to take you into an action in your life, and it was stopped. Now, power, in true power, I'm not talking about world power, political power, all the power we get confused with. True power is very close to energy,
right,
or is energy itself. When you're really in the center of power, you're in the center of energy,
right.
And that has a very fierce presence, that can, most people often want to avoid it because it's such a big feeling.
Right.
And in our world, we are taught to avoid big feelings. So a very central aspect of my work is to help people feel. That's again through, now I'm listening, I'm seeing feeling, I'm inviting them into the feeling. And then naturally one can then put them on a table and let them feel energy as such, or let them just feel love through touch. I love them to feel loving touch. I love them to feel what love feels like on the body, or working on the energy body itself. Because as you know, when you take people into the energy body properly, into the chakras, into the energy body, that's when I notice people connect to their true nature, the sacred self, when people start to feel their divinity. When people, and it's not like we think. When you feel divinity, it's not like, oh my gosh, I'm God. It's not like that. It's not that mind state. It's a state,
like an awakening.
It's a state of just not separation any longer. You're not separate from anything. You're not separate from yourself. All of you is wanted. All of you is loved. It's a state I can't actually put into words. It's very hard to put it because it's not in the land of the mind. It's not in the land of language. It's in the land of being. So it's and the only way you can really take people to know that is through the energy body work, which I won't necessarily call Reiki, though I have done Reiki a long time ago. But for me, it's a tantric lineage. So the tantric lineage has a very powerful way of working with energy that helps people feel that.
Right. And so, would you tap? Obviously, I mean, I'm stating obvious, but you would read energy and feel energy transference from your client. Are you aware of that transference of energy?
Oftentimes what's happening, and maybe you need to explain more what you mean by transference, but I'll just give you mine. And then what I work with people are feelings they don't want to feel. So someone comes with a deep grief of something, they've lost something or someone, or they had a deep grief and they don't want to feel the grief. Anything, they just don't want to feel the grief. So then I show them it's okay to feel grief. I'll feel your grief with you. Look, grief is just unexpressed love. Someone has died. I can't love them anymore. I've got all my love for whatever, this child, this mother, this grandmother, this beloved that has passed. I've got so much love still to give this one. And I can't because they have passed. I can't give it to them. So that's the grief. Like, I can't love them. But it's like, so then the grief is the love stopped. That's essentially what grief is. Stopping love. So then it's like, okay, we can't go directly to the flow of love. Let's go to the protection, the grief against the love. I have all this love, I can't. That's a painful feeling. I want to love you, but you won't let me love you. It's painful. How can I feel that love anyway? Even though the person's not here in physical form, or someone has had a breakup in a relationship, I can still feel that love. If I start to feel that love again, the grief transforms back into love. And that, of course, one can go into in grief. One can go into the deeper understanding where we are never separated from anyone, even in death. But that's a different conversation. But once one starts to, so in that transference of feeling, the Dakini, often she's the alchemist.
Yes.
Oh, you don't want to feel grief? Give it to me. I'll feel it. Oh, look, it's just love. And then your body gets the imprint from me that it's not. I don't have to avoid feeling that. I can feel the deepest grief, go into the darkest place. Oh wow, if I really open to it, if I really feel it, I just return to love every time. But sometimes we need to be taught that, sort of like I become the mother then, right? Teaching the child a different way of experiencing grief than perhaps what they learned from their mother or father. And re-imprinting them. Imprint is even not such a good word. It's a deep teaching. You don't have to avoid any feeling,
So I suppose that is an embodiment of taking on somebody else's state of emotion, whatever it may be, without really internalizing it. Also maybe accepting it and saying it's okay. It's okay to feel this way. It's okay to grieve this way. It's okay to, you're just accepting whatever it is that's going on for the client, just in a non-judgment way, just holding space, just containing it. So my kind of transference is really just about, I'm sure you feel this transference of emotion through energy, or transference of what's going on in the room through energy. So you can possibly feel incredibly sad if your client is sitting with incredible sadness, and that's transferred onto you without really taking it personally. or getting depressed
Mm.
or having to feel like you need to cry.
Mm.
It's just a transference of energy.
Mm. Mm. Yeah, we become very aware of what the other is feeling.
Yes.
We feel it as ourselves.
Correct.
Certainly.
Yeah.
And sometimes I might even weep with my clients because tears are just love flowing. So it's like, and if that happens ever, it's such a gift that someone would bring me.
Sure, it's a hard one.
But because I truly don't have any judgment of any feeling. Like you say, that for me, love is that field of acceptance where everything of you, everything that you feel, is welcome here. And that's like that's what love. One way of describing the field of love. All of you is welcome here. And so I can feel sometimes these really. People come with very hurt feelings from the past, But I myself, even though I might feel it, the sadness, I don't know how to say. I never feel I don't want to feel it. I never feel that because I love the sadness. It's just the being. It's just part of them that didn't get to be held or didn't get to express or was confused. So it's like, wow, now I get to hold that for you or help you hold yourself in that. Like there's no feeling I don't like anymore.
Okay.
And for me, the feeling, the amount of feeling we can have is the more we actually, as Alan Watts would speak, the more we dive into that spectrum of love. And most people think love is just the one thing. It says, oh, I really like you. I think you're wonderful. But if you've ever loved anyone truly, there's a moment you've hated them. And then when you really realize everyone I've truly loved, I felt everything about. That's the spectrum of love. And the more I can allow all my feelings, the more this love spectrum can expand in me. And one day I can truly experience myself as love because there's nothing I push away.
Slow that down for a second.
Sure.
When I experience myself as love, then there's nothing I can push away. I've heard that many times before, and it's starting to resonate for me as you're saying that. Little bit abstract. Tell me more about that.
Have you ever been in a field of someone who just really accepts you as you are? It's like, and you know it. They just, it could be a relative, it could be a beloved. Like that just, when you're around them, you just know, okay, look, they're not perfect. They might now and again think you're full of shit or something.
Yeah.
But mostly they just really just get you. They're on your side. They know who you are. They feel you. They just accept you. And when you're around them, you feel like a love flowing through you because you don't have to have your defenses up. You don't have to protect from their judgments, from how they think you should be. So suddenly you start to feel more of your own being. You feel more of yourself. And that's what I'm calling love in this moment, where there isn't anything about you that isn't allowed, isn't accepted. It doesn't mean we don't look at ourselves and go, well, I've got something unconscious here. And let me try bring that to consciousness, or there's some whatever language I want to learn, or I'm awful at public speaking, or sometimes my social relations are just not so great. Let me try to figure that out. It's not that we're not learning. I mean, learning is a wonderful aspect of our existence. I mean, to learn, but learning about who I am and expanding who I am doesn't mean who I am right now isn't acceptable. And I think a lot of people have that. I'm going to learn something so I can be a better person, so I can be more loved, so I can, better myself, instead of just, I love to learn. I love to discover. If I learn whatever, go and learn something about cosmology and the great universe around us, and something in my mind expands and something in my heart expands, I meet a new aspect of myself. How delightful. But it doesn't make me more lovable than before, So that right now as you are, that's in a way, how to say, it's like as lovable as you'll ever be. Nothing's going to add to that or take away from that. It's like the ocean. It can never get bigger or smaller,
Just
changes
is
and everything,
is.
but that ocean doesn't actually get bigger. It is. It's quite an amazing phenomenon, actually. And so that's you. You're that ocean. And you're never going to be more lovable. or less lovable. You are that, this.
Beautiful.
You know?
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So now I want to talk about Tantra.
Right?
It's a concept for me that I get because I have experienced the spiritual engagement of Tantra. I'm a touch bunny. I'm a touch whore.
Oh, beautiful.
And I always say to my clients that the brain is the largest sex organ in the body, and the second is the skin. So in order for us to connect intimately, we need to be present. And when we are present, that means there's nothing else going on in the mind. We are receiving without agenda. We're receiving just for the sake of pleasure. And we're giving for the sake of knowing that our partner is in pleasure. And there's nothing we're not expecting anything in return. Also, that the brain is responsible for eroticism, and we can go there if we want to, and we can choose not to go there. It's all up to how we want to map our being in this world, our sensual being in this world. And then, of course, there's the skin, and how we are so guarded. Some of us, a lot of us, we avoid touch because what does touch mean sometimes? It means that I have to have sex with my husband or my other, whoever it may be, that if they touch me, that means I have to do the deed. If there's a slight massage on the shoulders or they come up behind me while I'm doing the dishes, that means there's another agenda. And then that's the brain and the body going into a whole different story. So Tantra for me is a combination of the mind and the body playing together. I want to hear from you. If you were to describe to the layperson what Tantra is, please, the floor is yours.
It's interesting because we're talking about, this dance of touch and love and expectations. So I'm just trying to bring in a description of Tantra that might fit that. So maybe we can dance with it and play with it and just spiral through it a little bit, because there's another question happening in you besides what is Tantra, but a Tantra can answer that, this patterning around sex and so forth. So now as you ask me these questions, we move more into energy, and that's often when I say slow down, I need to feel that. So Tantra, like all spiritual paths, wants to bring us into the present moment, because that's where it's all happening. Everything's happening right now. This moment. There's nothing else really. We're constantly in the past. I mean, the past is constantly knocking on us, because we've left so many things behind, so many things we didn't want to feel back there, and then like tapping, saying we've got to feel them now. And we're constantly thinking about the future as well, like how are we going to get there? How are we going to navigate? We don't have that. So all spiritual paths really want to bring us into the present moment, and so does Tantra. And so you're saying, okay, well, one way to bring you into the present moment is to really love your body. Whether it's with yourself or if somebody else is also loving your body. This is a profound and magical way to bring you in the present moment. And in Tantra, it's going to be a profound and magical practice. For me, if I touch you, or, if I touch my partner or something like this, to see their patternings, to see how they're caught in the past. And that's exactly what you've just said. I want to offer, I'm going to bring you to the present moment with some loving touch, and your pattern comes. Some sexual energy rises in my body. What does sexual energy mean? It means we have to have sex right now. Does it mean that? Is that what sexual energy means? Is that true? Because maybe sexual energy means I'm going to go make a beautiful poem or make a beautiful film or have a wonderful conversation about intimacy with you or drop into intimacy with you and not, like, how can I make love in this moment without going into physical penetration? So the patterning on our planet is sexual energy equals sex, sex equals penetration. And in the feminine body, and in a masculine body, it really doesn't always mean that. And so there already, Tantra is going to come in and use this practice of touch to show me your pattern. What is your pattern? And when I see your pattern, then I can see the unconscious, I can see the story. If I can release you from that pattern, you can become more free to exist in this moment as you are.
Great. So what is Tantra? What is it?
Well, the very word Tantra, is Tan and Tra. The word Tan is the way, the method, the way, the path. The Tra is into the expansion of the self, is into the expanded self, is into the awakening of self. So Tantra are the ways or the methods that awaken the self. And we just discussed one right now, the method of I touch you, and then I see where your patterns are around being touched. Some people's patterns around being touched are to withdraw and to protect themselves, Oh, it's too vulnerable. You're bringing me in. Sometimes that's going to sex is to avoid the vulnerability. Like sex,
yes.
Sex for women can be very vulnerable and also very, she can hold a protective position there. Sex for a man can also not be a very vulnerable place. So you're touching this man with such love. He's starting to feel his heart. He's starting to feel, wow, this woman has some power. I'm feeling things. Oh, she's touching and he's starting to feel. And for a man in our culture, feeling isn't such a place of strength. He's taught not to feel from very little.
Absolutely.
All right. So he's going, because I don't want to feel, let's have sex. Then I don't have to feel that much. I can ejaculate quite quickly. It's over. Boom. I've avoided vulnerability, which is the exact opposite thing that you want. You want to take him into the vulnerable so you can meet his heart, so you can invite that juicy intimacy, so you can feel that, divine meeting between the two of you. And then the sex happens, and wow, somehow we went to sex and we avoided vulnerability. What happened? Wonderful, you've just seen a pattern. That's a tantric method to show the pattern. So now how do we work with that pattern? What are you going to do with that?
So as a tantrika, tell me your role
in
your practice, first and foremost.
I sense my role is often simply guiding people back to the truth of who they are. Just keep navigating them back. They go a little bit this way, that way. They forget a little bit. They go out of alignment. They get caught. We often get caught by the mind. It catches us. In a way, sometimes I feel like I'm the one in your corner. I'm like, I've got your back. I'm going to keep bringing you back to truth. And sometimes it isn't as lovely as it sounds, because sometimes you have to tell people or a person, but out here, this belief you have is not true. I can really be upsetting for people. If it's, I'm sure if you tell somebody, you're working with a couple, and then the man or the woman's going, oh, but I love them so much, and you're watching them and you're going, sweetheart, that's not love. That's some confusion you got from your mommy or daddy. That's not love. You can't just criticize them 24 hours a day. I know maybe your mom did that with your dad, but that's not love. She might not like to hear that. That might be a strike for her. Like, whoa, what do you mean I'm not being loving? I'm just trying to help him to be his better self,
So Neo-Tantra, as we know it, is body work, right? It's touch. It's healing through touch. Would you agree?
It's also dancing and, like you were saying earlier, the eye gazing and mirror work and all kinds of ways of accessing feelings. It can be catharsis. I mean, Neo-Tantra is vast, actually. It's vast. And there's many schools of Neo-Tantra, and they'll focus on different things. It can be rituals and all kinds of things, ceremonies, ways of accessing places in yourself. And so more that the dark self can come through in Neo-Tantra. I know some Neo-Tantricas who practice in quite dark energies, you can call it, go into ritual places to access the darker unconscious places in us. It's quite vast. But a lot of it, especially in Joburg, is very much based on body work, especially Yoni and lingam massage.
Right.
And I think in Joburg, it's Taoist massage is quite popular here as well.
Right.
Yeah.
When you say it's fast, what do you mean by that?
Vast.
Oh, you say vast. I do apologize.
But Tantra is known as the lightning path.
Right.
So originally, if you go into the essence of the original tantric path, what it wanted was, it wanted to awaken the bodhisattva this life.
What's the bodhisattva?
Bodhisattva.
Sattva.
Bodhisattva. So, you know, Buddha originally...
Oh, Bodhisattva.
Bodhisattva. Buddha
I'm saying it all
said
wrong.
that the amount of lifetimes it's going to take for you and I to wake up. You think of the eagle with a little thread in its beak, and then think of a very high mountain. Then the eagle's going to fly over the mountain with the thread in the beak. That's one life. And then go back. That's 2 lives. As many times as that eagle takes to bring that mountain down to nothing, that's how many lifetimes it's going to take us for to enlighten, right? It's a lot, right?
Okay, well, it depends how many times.
So the bodhisattva is the one who says, you know what? The bodhisattva is the one that wakes up, is enlightened. And the Buddha is a good example of such. It says, but I'm not going to cross that river until everybody does. I'm waiting, and I'm going to stay, and I'm going to help. And so some of that can be in spirit, as with Buddha now, possibly. I can't speak for the Buddha. But for those that are in body, they get to the place of a very deep and profound understanding in themselves. And they could just go off into this blissful state of enlightenment, and they go, no, wait, I want to help. And they stay, and they help. And so the Buddhists developed a path called Tantra that said, okay, well, but how can we help them do it fast? You know, let's do it this lifetime. Yeah. And so Tantra came into being. And so it was a lightning path. And so the ancient tantric path is actually super fierce, super fierce. Some people would die on it, physically die, because it's when you start breaking it down, those physical defenses in the body and the big energies come through you, people could have a stroke or something. And so there were many warnings around Tantra. Please, guys, if you're not on this last lifetime bodhisattva thing, where you're about to wake up, don't go to Tantra. It's too fast. It's going to burn you, and I've seen it burn people. I've even been burnt by it. So the archetype is very, very fierce, still, even in Neo-Tantra. But in Neo-Tantra, there does seem to be some protection where, yes, a couple can come to us, do some beautiful work, and get to do a few sessions or however many sessions and go off and have a lovely marriage, you know, which isn't quite traditional Tantra. But there's that night saying, okay, existence is saying, you know what, we can help with that too. Get them going. Let them get on with their work, their love. How do I avoid vulnerability? How do I get into my protection? Go lovely, go do that beautiful work. And Neo-Tantra helps with that now. Where the traditional tantric path would never have opened the doors to someone who wasn't on a fierce path of enlightenment, because they wouldn't have handled the big energies. It would have been too much for them.
Yeah. So it's still untouchable for me. I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying, that this is big, it's huge, it's energy, it's and using Neo-Tantra as like paths towards feeling that parts of the vastness of Tantra. And we as practitioners can give our clients a little taste here and there of Tantra itself. But you know, when we hear that celebrities practice Tantra in their marriages, what does that mean? Are they doing Yoni massage? Are they doing lingam massage? Are they doing energy work? Are they doing, I've been watching Sex, Love and Goop, and watching the erotic body map. Is it called erotic body map with Jaya? And just watching herself and her partner Ian doing, this erotic energy. I don't know if you've seen that.
I've watched the first one and a little bit of the second.
Okay,
I
so
haven't
I'm
watched
giving
the whole
away
one
too
yet.
much.
No, it's great. I know what you're talking about though.
Yeah.
That erotic body map. They talk about the kinky, the sensual, the sexual, the
The-
five
the
different types of
energetic,
people.
and then the shapeshifter. Yeah. And I find that very interesting. But the one scene in the one episode is where her partner is seriously, moving that energy through her body, which I've seen personally in, live, watching the energy through the sexual energy through the body and as it shakes and so on. Is this Tantra? Is this Neo-Tantra? Is this what we give our couples to go and practice? What is that?
That is Tantra. And it's where your body is the prayer and the temple to meet God inside your body.
Mm-hmm.
So it's even the word God. Maybe I shouldn't even use it because there's so many connotations to God, and I wouldn't want to offend somebody else who has their idea of God. But to meet the divinity within the self.
Okay.
So that was the traditional tantric path. Was to use a tantric practice or couple tantric practice where you're with your consort, and they would have different definitions. It wouldn't be like a boyfriend or a husband. Consort's different to that. It's your sexual spiritual partner.
Right.
And in the traditional practice, that partnership, that work I did with my partner was for my communion. So people I'm a Dakini, I'm working with many people. Whatever my fruits are there, I'm sharing with my communion. So their awareness expands. So it's a very kind of, I want to almost use the word sacrificial path in a way. A lot of people do the couple thing and it's just about you and me, and we go into this and we have our orgasm and blissful state. We don't share that then with our neighbors or something. Where in the tantric lineage, that's shared in some way. In the energy field, if people are connected to me as Dakini and I'm in that high state, they will connect, they will receive that blessing. And even that understanding and that expansion in themselves, in their lovemaking with their partners. And that lovemaking is the key to awakening. It's a key to awakening, to know who you actually are, to meet where your energy body starts to awaken. It's when your energy, your spine is rippling with energy and coming down, and just your sides are shimmering with energy. We have moments like that. They're not always all the time. Maybe in the ultimate one who has fully awakened, he's in that fully energetic state, or she is, all the time. But you'll feel that the energy body starts to awaken, and as you really feel that energy body, that knowing of your true nature, or call it divinity, even though that can create confusion, that word, is known to you. You know it. You don't know it. You are it. You know it. It cannot be debated. It's a knowing that's beyond language. It's a knowing that's beyond any debate. And that tantric lovemaking is called sky dancing in Dakini, where that energy dances through her. You can see the sky dancing is happening, dancing in emptiness. She's dancing. And that takes quite a profound skillfulness in the man and the woman. The man, if he has any heartbreak, any wounding around his heart, any fear of vulnerability, oh, you're touching me so nice, let's go fuck, if you've got that kind of story going on him, it's not going to happen. He needs to be able to let that love flow from the heart through the lingam into the woman.
Right.
And the practice is to do it with himself. Yes. Because he can't give it to himself, he can't give it to her. Course. He must feel it himself. And there's all kinds of things that go on in the man. His heart is broken or something. He might not be able to get erection. He might not be able to keep erection. He might climax very quickly. All those things in my practice, people go, well, what happens when a man has a premature ejaculation? There's many ways we look at it, and every way is individual. But I'm going to look at a man with a premature ejaculation. I'm going to go, what's going on in your heart? Why do you want to get out of here so quickly? Where's the heartbreak? You stick around, you give so much to the woman, she buggers off. You've had that happen a few times. You don't want to give so much anymore. I'll just ejaculate quickly. Yeah, let's look at the heart. So for that sky dancing to happen, we need to look at the man's heart so he can be sharing his energy. And then for a woman to sky dance, we have to look at her receptivity in her womb. And what happens with a woman in our culture, especially South African culture, a woman is slightly sexual or something in our culture, she's called whore, right? It's still prevalent in our culture. I get astounded by
Slut,
it.
yeah.
Bang! And what does she do when she gets called whore or slut? She shuts down.
down.
Now she can't receive his energy. And then what does she do? She fights with him all day. She criticizes him about this and this. He doesn't do this. He doesn't do enough of that. He needs to be better at that because she can't receive his energy. If she was open and receptive, she wouldn't be criticizing him. She'd be like, oh, honey, even from the kitchen to the bedroom when we're making love, I'm not criticizing you about anything, you know. So then she's receiving, and as she receives this energy, you know, it's going to arrive in her heart. And with a woman, we see when they're giving, they're breastfeeding, they're giving so much love, not just milk to their children. And then they also do this with their partners. They give so much love. And then his heart is vulnerable, which you've now helped him access through touch. His heart is open. He starts to receive his beloved in his heart, you know, and goes into his first state of receiving this love of the divine feminine flowing through his being. Lovely. And that's, that, you know, when you're in that state, I don't know if you're still looking for anything. I don't know if you're still searching for anything. I don't even know if you care who you are anymore.
Agreed.
You're in the state of non-separation.
Agreed.
You know?
And I completely agree with you that women find it so hard to receive without having to give back in some way or another, because there is always this perception as well that if I'm going to if he's going to go down on me, then I have to give him a blowjob, or I can't just accept this pleasure without doing for him. Men are sometimes like that as well, but it's mostly the other way around. And women really battle to be in their bodies and not in their heads when receiving pleasure. So it's a gifting and receiving is something that I work a lot with. So
the only thing about that is if it's just a gifting session, that's one thing. But if it's a gifting session that actually wants to go to a deeper lovemaking, she's going to have to pause and soften his body and touch him and give him love. Otherwise, that lovemaking isn't going to be what it could be. And most times I've noticed in our culture, the thing is that men have been so dominant in sex and so controlling of it that it's actually very seldom that a woman rolls a man over and says, okay, honey, come on. Let me give you a little here. Let me touch your body with some love. Let me just touch your body without goal love. I'm not going to make you ejaculate. I'm just going to, And men actually really need that kind of touch if they're going to stay in the lovemaking, if they're going to, if they're going to open to more bliss themselves and then their body activates. So, I really hear you, just to be able to receive. And that's beautiful to form and to learn that. And I think very hard. Yeah. But if it's going to be a full lovemaking session, she's going to have to stop somewhere along the line and ask him to receive too.
Definitely. So there's pleasure in the receiving, and then there's pleasure in the giving.
Oh, yes.
And that's the dynamic that has to be explained. And there's got to be surrender for both the giver and the receiver. I surrender to receive. I surrender to give pleasure to the one who's giving, and vice versa. So
I love that.
That's really about just getting pleasure in being able to give and receive without an agenda. So that's really beautiful. That's being present. So ending off,
sure.
The taboo. Taboo around Tantra, taboo around spirituality and sexuality. And why do people poo-poo it? Why do people see it as so dark? Or, I constantly get reminded by somebody in my life who keeps saying, oh, Sting and his wife practice Tantra. And it's like, there's a taboo around it. What is this taboo?
Sure. It's a deep question. It's really a deep question. And just the first thing that rose in my heart as you spoke about it is if we come into patriarchy. And I'm not someone who's against patriarchy because I believe in the evolution, it was necessary. So I'm not coming from that place. But patriarchy had certain necessities in it for it to exist and for it to thrive. And one of the necessities was to suppress the feminine or the goddess, the divine feminine. How do you suppress her? How you suppress her is you separate her from her desires. Right. You say, women aren't allowed to desire. Then immediately, one of the goddess powers is to desire. In my desire, I bring a manifest spirit into form. And desire is a power of the feminine. We take that away from her. We take her away from her access to sexual energy. We take her away from her access to sexual pleasure. When we take that away from the feminine, we control and dominate her, and the patriarchy comes into power. As even if I ask a more religious man to say, hey, ask me what I desire, he can't. I have a Christian coach, and I said, you need to ask me what I desire, what I want. He couldn't do it. I was like, his name's Adam. It was like Adam and Lilith. It was so funny. So I sense, as we spoke about that was the taboo I felt rise in my heart. There's a great taboo, and that's shifting now because in the evolution the feminine has been learning her lessons about the abuse of power and stuff. The masculine's been a fantastic for us women. When we rise into power, in the past there was abuse of the feminine, which I won't go into now, of the matriarchy. I believe one of the things of the patriarchy was to show us a mirror of the abuse of power. Look how this can go badly, woman, We've been learning, hopefully we've been learning, and we might need a few more lessons or a bit more awareness. But I think we're getting there. And as that awareness has descended in us, we are now accessing that again. But for many people, like you go there, that's wrong, that's taboo. Women can't have that. You can't go into so much desire, and it's like taboo. So and there's many layers and there's many taboos, but that's just the first one I could suggest that one could contemplate.
Spot on. I really, really think that's fabulous. And that resonates with me because as women in general, and I'm making a general statement here, we don't allow ourselves to feel desire. We squash it. We, as you said, any form of display of sexuality, a freedom of sexuality, we're already labeled as whore, slut, loose, and so on. And we cannot be in our pleasure. We cannot be seen as being in our pleasure. And if we are in any way seen as being desirable, we're a threat. We're a threat to other women. Because it really, what it says to other women is that it's possible. And we're afraid. And don't be too big. Don't be too gorgeous. Don't be too sexy. Don't bring attention onto yourself. Be demure. Be less than. And our sexual energy as goddesses is very, very powerful, and I can understand how men have tried to suppress that because I think they're afraid. They're afraid of how powerful our sexual energy is. So, Shima, I thank you so much for taking time and to join me here in the studio. It's been the most enlightening conversation. And your energy is just beautiful. It's just love. And it's just been such a pleasure to chat to you. So thank you.
I've really enjoyed chatting to you too. I can feel there could be a lot to talk about. And just to close, do you mind if I just share a little bit about my school?
Oh, please.
Yeah?
Absolutely, yes.
well, yeah, I don't even want to say my school.
Mm.
You know, as you're talking right now and you're speaking so truthfully, the goddess or this earth goddess is an incredibly sexual being. You know, if you look at all the magnificent, all the plants and the flowers, the animals, everything. It's a sexual planet we live on, and she is such, you know. And I feel this deep calling in my heart, and it's been here for a long time, but I've had to find the courage to start the School of Sacred Sexuality, which is now I'm like committed to that, and I'm turning into that. And it's not the only school, there's many schools, but it's certainly one flavor that wants to come through. And the one thing that really feels important in my heart right now is that I find human beings are a bit compartmentalized and like to specialize. So like we are the sex coaches, and you are the psychologist, and you are the shaman, and you are the doctor, and da da da. But sexuality, I feel, is important in every healing art, whatever that is. It could be a dancer or an artist itself. And my experience and my noticing of things is that a lot of people are just not doing that work. Like I work with ayahuasca as well, and I've noticed in that field the shaman are not doing their work with sexuality. They're not giving it attention, and then it creates distortion. Like I had one shaman in one of the last ayahuasca shaman ceremonies that you just pour shame in me. I got filled up with it, and it's like, dude, you got to do some work, you know. So the school initially would like to offer modules for people who might not want to become themselves specialized as a Dakini or a sex coach, but would like or are aware that having the knowledge, doing their own work with their own sexual nature, their own unconscious sexuality is going to be invaluable to their work, whether they're a massage therapist, a yoga teacher, a doctor, it doesn't matter. Everybody needs to do this work, and that's just this message I've been getting in my heart. So I'm creating programs where people from different places can come and do that work, integrated into theirs in how they like to. You know, it's not so fixed. You know, how a massage person will be very different to how a gynecologist does it, let's say, but that they start to have this deeper knowing of themselves and what they're bringing, because we're all giving each other information all the time. We're in transmission all the time. We're all psychic. I promise you that. We're getting messages all the time. And if I'm a gynecologist and I haven't worked on my sexual shame properly, and I'm working with a woman and I've got some shame, or she's telling me about all her lovers she's had the last month, and I'm in full judgment of that, you know, I'm going to transmit that into her body, which isn't going to lead to any kind of healing. So
agreed 100%. And going into this work, I knew I had to do my own sexual healing. Otherwise, I couldn't do the work. It was impossible. And that, you know, the old sayings that the healer becomes the healed becomes the healer, and vice versa. It's just impossible if you are not aware of your own sexuality when doing this work, and your biases, your judgments. You've got to be constantly looking at yourself as a human being and your own perceptions, your own everything when it comes to sexuality. And nothing is open for judgment. Everything needs to be accepted as everybody's right to experience and to explore, because we cannot all be, we don't all love chocolate cake. You know, we don't all love smoked salmon. I don't know. You know, we all have different tastes, and we have to be open to that. So there's so much resonance there, and
your eros leads to gnosis, as Plato said, where your erotic energy wants to go, awakens you to the true knowing of God. Plato said that. So I might have an eros, a desire, very, like you say, very different to you in terms of you know the food you described. It might not be my ultimate eros, but it'll take me into my unconscious. So I might desire, let's say, I want to make love to 10 men. It might not be my truest sexual desire, and I might not even have to experience it quite like that. But what is it that I'm longing for, that masculine energy so much that it's coming out in that image? Oh, I'm so absent from, I want that. And then working consciously with someone, I might not say to them, I'll go have sex with 10 men tonight. I might not say that to them, but I might create a sacred group of 10 conscious men who surround her and just hold her and pour love and sexual energy into her being, so she can feel this longing, so want to be met by the masculine so deeply, so deeply. So it might not live out exactly like her fantasy, because that could be a bit maybe much for her, or could, who knows, it might not be the most beautiful thing. I don't know. I'm not saying it isn't. I'm just saying would look in the moment what that could look like, what she actually wanted. And when she gets that, she might not want chocolate cake anymore because she really got it. And then she might want something else that takes her into another aspect of her being that needs to be reclaimed.
Absolutely.
So it's a really beautiful and refined work, actually. And it's evolving in the evolution as it does. It's alive.
Absolutely.
It's alive. Our field is alive.
And you talk about fantasies, and there's so much researching and doing so much further investigation into fantasies and what really are our erotic fantasies about. And so this is possibly for another podcast, fantasies. But again, thank you so much for all your knowledge and for sharing all your knowledge with me and with our audience today. So just goes
blessings,
well.
Everyone. Have a wonderful sexual journey, whatever it might be.
Amen.
Get some help. It helps.
Absolutely. It surely does.
It really does.
So thank you again.
Thank you.
Have a beautiful weekend. Go in safety and in love and in peace.
Thank you. You too. Namaste.
Namaste.
Namaste.